My dear brothers and sisters, today I want to speak to you about one of the greatest challenges we face every single day of our lives. It is the struggle of balancing our dunya and our akhirah, our worldly life and our eternal life. Every morning when we wake up, we are faced with choices. Choices of how we spend our time, where we direct our energy, and what we allow to take priority in our hearts. And often the battle is not between good and evil, but between what is urgent and what is important, between what gives us short-term satisfaction and what secures our everlasting peace. Let me start by reminding you that Islam never told us to abandon the dunya completely. Islam is not a faith that demands you leave your family, quit your job, and isolate yourself in worship for the rest of your life. No, Islam is a faith of balance. It teaches us that this world is a pathway, not a destination. It is a bridge to the next life, and how we walk on this bridge determines where we will end up. The dunya is not evil in itself, but the way we use it can either elevate us or destroy us. When we think of the dunya, we often think of wealth, careers, possessions, and pleasures. And yes, all of that is part of the dunya. But the dunya is also your health, your relationships, your responsibilities, your opportunities. Islam never dismisses these things as unnecessary. On the contrary, Islam teaches us to work, to earn, to marry, to raise children, to contribute to society, to enjoy what is halal, but at the same time it warns us, do not get lost in it, do not let the temporary distract you from the eternal. Do not let your love for what fades away blind you from what lasts forever. My brothers and sisters, imagine your life like a scale. On one side is your dunya, and on the other side is your akhirah. Too often, the dunya becomes heavy because it fills our schedule, it fills our mind, it fills our heart, and the akhirah becomes light because it only comes to us in moments, when we hear a lecture, when we stand in prayer, when we visit a grave, or when a calamity strikes. But the true believer is the one who never lets the akhirah slip from his consciousness. Even when he works in the dunya, he does it with the akhirah in mind. Think about your job, for example. You might say, I work 8 hours a day, where is my akhirah in that? But if your intention is to earn halal income, to feed your family, to give charity, to avoid debt, then every single moment of that work is an act of worship. The same is true with your studies. If you study so you can benefit your community, so you can serve humanity, so you can represent your faith with excellence, then your studies are not a distraction from the akhirah. They are a service to it. Islam does not separate the dunya from the akhirah. Islam teaches us to intertwine them, but the problem arises when the dunya consumes us so much that the akhirah becomes an afterthought. We start skipping prayers because of meetings. We start neglecting family because of deadlines. We start chasing wealth at the expense of our morals. We start living like this world is permanent, forgetting that every breath is taking us closer to the grave. That is when the balance is broken, and that is when we must stop and realign ourselves. Brothers and sisters, let me remind you of something powerful. The dunya is limited, but your akhirah is limitless. The dunya will end, but the akhirah never ends. The dunya promises pleasure, but always mixes it with pain. The akhirah promises joy without sorrow, peace without anxiety, love without loss. So tell me, which one deserves more of your heart? Which one deserves more of your focus? And yet, we chase the dunya like it will last forever, and we prepare for the akhirah like we still have forever to begin. Now, how do we actually balance the two? How do we live in this world, fulfill our responsibilities, and at the same time secure our place in the next? Let me share with you a few simple principles. First, make intention the foundation of everything. Whatever you do, ask yourself why you are doing it. Are you working only to pay bills and climb the corporate ladder, or are you working to provide for your family, to avoid haram, to give charity, and to serve others? The same action with a different intention changes from being just a worldly act to becoming an act of worship. And remember, Allah looks at the sincerity of your heart more than the quantity of your deeds. Second, never let the obligations of the akhirah be compromised. No matter how busy you are, your prayer comes first. No matter how hectic life gets, your connection to Allah must remain strong. Think of Salah like a charger for your soul. You may have the latest phone with the best apps, but if the battery dies, the phone is useless. In the same way, no matter how successful you are in dunya, if your soul is disconnected from Allah, you are spiritually bankrupt. Third, give your dunya boundaries, work hard, yes, study hard, yes, enjoy halal pleasures, yes, but give everything its rightful place. Do not let your job consume your heart. Do not let your studies consume your soul. Do not let your wealth define your worth. Use the dunya, but do not worship it. Hold it in your hand, but do not let it settle in your heart. Fourth, dedicate time for the akhirah in your daily schedule. Just as you plan meetings, deadlines, and chores, plan moments for Quran, dhikr, charity, and reflection. Sometimes we think worship requires hours, but in reality, even a few consistent minutes with sincerity outweigh hours of heedlessness. The key is consistency. The Prophet taught us that the most beloved deeds to Allah are those that are consistent, even if small. Fifth, remember death often. I know it sounds uncomfortable, but it is a powerful way to stay balanced. Every time you visit a graveyard, every time you attend a janazah, every time you hear of someone passing, remind yourself, that will be me one day, and on that day, nothing of the dunya will matter except how you used it for the akhirah. That reflection will bring your priorities back into focus. And finally, surround yourself with reminders. If your friends are people who only talk about money, status, and entertainment, then your heart will naturally lean toward dunya. But if your friends remind you of Allah, of prayer, of patience, of accountability, then your heart will naturally lean toward akhirah. Who you spend time with shapes your balance. Brothers and sisters, this world is like a traveler's stop. Imagine you are on a long journey and you stop at a rest area. You would not spend all your money decorating that rest area because you know you will leave it soon. In the same way, why are we decorating this temporary world while neglecting the eternal home we are heading toward? It does not mean you cannot have nice things. It means do not let nice things own you. Do not let them make you forget your destination. And here is something beautiful. When you live with akhirah in mind, Allah blesses your dunya too. When you seek Allah's pleasure first, He puts barakah in your time, barakah in your wealth, barakah in your relationships, and barakah in your heart. You will find contentment even in little, peace even in difficulty, and joy even in trials. But when you chase dunya alone, you will always feel empty, always unsatisfied, always restless. So, my dear brothers and sisters, let us ask ourselves honestly, what consumes most of my day? What fills most of my heart? What do I sacrifice more for, dunya or akhirah? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary, because on the day of judgment, the answers will be crystal clear, and that day will not allow us to rewind, to reschedule, to redo. That is why today is the time to act, today is the time to balance, today is the time to prioritize. As I conclude, I want you to carry this image with you. Imagine standing in front of Allah and He asks you, what did you do with the life I gave you? What did you do with the time, the wealth, the health, the opportunities? On that day, you will not regret the moments you gave to Allah. You will not regret the prayer you prayed, the charity you gave, the kindness you showed, the patience you practiced. But you will regret every wasted moment, every neglected prayer, every lost opportunity to earn His pleasure. So let us live in this world, but live with the akhirah in sight. Let us work, but for a purpose. Let us study, but for a higher goal. Let us enjoy halal, but with gratitude. Let us walk through dunya, but with our eyes fixed on Jannah. That is the true balance, and that is the way to success in both worlds. My beloved brothers and sisters, one of the most beautiful gifts that Allah has given us as believers is the ability to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary simply through the purity of our intention. Intention is not just a thought, it is the heart behind every action, the secret engine that gives meaning to what we do. Without it, an action might look impressive to the world but carry no weight with Allah. With it, A small and simple action might be elevated in his sight and recorded as something monumental. That is why our scholars have always reminded us that intention is the soul of every deed. Without the soul, the body collapses. Without the intention, the action is just an empty shell. Think about it. When you sit down to eat, you might be hungry, you might just want to satisfy your appetite. But if before you begin, you pause and remind yourself, I am eating to gain strength so I can worship Allah better, so I can serve my family, so I can do good in this world, then suddenly that simple act of eating turns into worship. When you go to work, you might think you are only doing it to pay the bills or to move up the career ladder. But if you remind yourself, I am working to provide for my loved ones in a halal way, to stay away from dependence on others, to give back to my community, and to contribute to society in a manner that pleases Allah, then every moment you spend in that job becomes a form of worship. The same office, the same desk, the same tasks, but one intention makes it a worldly act, while another intention makes it an eternal investment. This is the power of intention. Islam does not tell us to abandon the dunya or to walk away from responsibility. It tells us to reframe how we see the dunya. Your family time is not wasted time when your goal is to nurture love, to show mercy, to fulfill your duty as a spouse, parent, or child. Your studies are not a distraction from your religion when your aim is to benefit people, to represent your faith with excellence, and to use your knowledge to uplift others. Even rest and sleep can become acts of worship if you rest so that you can wake up refreshed for prayer, for work, for service. Nothing in your life is too small to be transformed if you carry the right heart into it. Too often we separate our lives into two boxes. We think, here is my religious life, my prayer, my fasting, my charity, and here is my worldly life, my work, my school, my chores, my hobbies. But Islam teaches us that the true believer erases that artificial line. He makes his worldly life serve his religious life, and he makes his religious life enrich his worldly life. In other words, he lives with one clear purpose, to please Allah in everything he does. That is why one scholar beautifully said that intention is what turns habits into worship. Eating is a habit, working is a habit, talking to family is a habit, but with the right intention they all become worship. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people donating the exact same amount of money. One person does it because everyone around him is donating, and he does not want to look stingy. Another person does it quietly, sincerely, hoping only that Allah accepts it. To the eyes of the people, the act looks the same. But in the sight of Allah, one donation may carry little or no weight, while the other may be the very deed that earns paradise. What made the difference? Not the number, not the hands that gave, not the faces that smiled. The difference was the heart, and this is not only about big deeds. Imagine someone smiling at his brother. If he smiles because he just feels like it, it is good manners. But if he smiles because he wants to spread love, to bring comfort, to earn reward with Allah, that same smile becomes an act of worship. Imagine a mother cooking for her family. She may see it as just another duty, another tiring chore. But if she reminds herself, I am feeding my family for the sake of Allah, I am showing them love and care, I am earning my place in His sight, then every stir of the spoon, every ingredient added, every plate served is a deed recorded in her book. This is how beautiful and merciful Allah is. He opens the door of reward in every corner of our lives if only we bring the right heart to it, but here is where many of us fall short. We go through life on autopilot. We wake up, rush through our day, tick off our tasks, and fall into bed without ever pausing to ask, why am I doing this? And because we do not ask, our days pass by filled with activity, but empty of true reward. The Prophet reminded us that deeds are judged by intentions, meaning that the same act can either rise to the heavens or vanish into nothing, depending on the purpose behind it. That is why we must train ourselves to pause. even for just a few seconds, and reset our intention. You might be driving to work. Pause for a moment and say, "O Allah, make this drive a means of safety, make this work a means of halal provision, make this time a means of benefit for me and others." You might be opening a book to study. Pause and say, "O Allah, grant me knowledge that benefits. Let this learning be a light for me and a service to your creation." You might be helping someone in your family. Pause and say, "O Allah, accept this service from me as worship. Make it a source of mercy for me on the day of judgment." These small pauses reshape your whole life. They turn minutes into worship. They turn hours into reward. They turn ordinary routines into extraordinary acts of devotion. And remember, Allah is not only watching your actions, He is watching your heart. People may misunderstand you. They may not see your effort. They may even criticize you. But Allah sees the purity of your intention, and He rewards accordingly. That is why some of the greatest deeds in the sight of Allah are not necessarily the ones that look big in the sight of people. Sometimes the smallest act with sincerity outweighs mountains of deeds done for show. So, my brothers and sisters, as you live your daily life, do not underestimate the value of intention. It can make the dunya a pathway to the akhirah. It can make the temporary a means to the eternal. It can make your daily grind into a journey of worship. Every bite of food, every step to work, every page of study, every word of kindness, if done with sincerity, becomes a seed planted for the hereafter. And on the day of judgment, when we stand before Allah, we may be surprised. We may see rewards for things we never even considered important, because we did them with the right intention. So let us not waste our lives in meaningless motions. Let us reclaim our days, our hours, our moments, by setting our hearts straight. Every morning when you wake up, ask yourself, "What is my intention today?" And throughout the day, renew that intention. It may be the very thing that transforms your life. It may be the key that makes the balance between dunya and akhirah possible. May Allah purify our intentions, make our small deeds great in His sight, and allow us to live every moment for His sake. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the realities that we often avoid, yet can never escape, is the certainty of death. No matter how strong, wealthy, or young a person may feel, no matter how many dreams and plans they may hold, death is the one truth that visits every soul. We live in a world where we schedule meetings, vacations, weddings, and retirement, but none of us can schedule our final breath. Death does not knock on the door and ask permission. It does not wait until we are ready. It comes to the young as it comes to the old. It comes to the healthy as it comes to the sick. It comes to those who plan for tomorrow just as it comes to those who never thought they had a tomorrow. Think about it. How many times have we heard of someone who was full of life, who had plans and ambitions, who had a whole future ahead of them, only to leave this world suddenly? Maybe it was a neighbor, a classmate, a friend, or even a family member. And every time we hear of such news, for a moment our hearts shake. We say, "Subhanallah, life is short. One day that will be me." But how long does that feeling stay with us? Sometimes just minutes. Then we go back to our routines, back to our distractions, back to living as though death is far away. Yet the truth is, every single funeral we attend, every grave we walk past, every obituary we read is not just a reminder for someone else. It is a reminder for us. It is Allah whispering to our hearts, "Your time is also approaching." And when that time comes, brothers and sisters, everything we chase in this world will lose its meaning. Our money, no matter how much we have saved, will not enter the grave with us. Our positions, no matter how high we climbed, will not give us status in the soil. Our houses, our cars, our degrees, our titles, all of them will stay behind, divided, forgotten, inherited, or destroyed. What remains? Only the deeds we sent forward, only the prayers we prayed, the charity we gave, the kindness we showed, the patience we practiced. That is all that accompanies us into that lonely place. But here is something important. Remembering death is not meant to make us hopeless or paralyze us with fear. It is meant to wake us up. It is meant to bring clarity to our priorities. It is meant to remind us that we do not have endless time, so we cannot afford to waste it. When you remember death, suddenly the arguments you are holding on to seem petty. The grudges you refuse to forgive seem pointless. The delays in turning back to Allah feel foolish, because you realize, if death could come today, why am I living as though I have forever? The wise believer is the one who prepares for death before death prepares for him. This means living every day with awareness. It means not delaying repentance. It means not postponing good deeds for one day, because we may never reach that day. How often do we say, I will pray more later, I will give charity later, I will change my habits later, I will get serious about my faith later. But later is not promised. Later may never arrive. The graveyards are filled with people who thought they had later. The graveyards are filled with people who thought they had time. So how do we prepare? It does not mean abandoning life, quitting our responsibilities, or living in constant sadness. No, it means living with purpose. It means doing your work, your studies, your family duties, but with the Akhirah always in mind. It means making sure that if death were to come in the middle of your day, you would not be ashamed to meet Allah in that state. Imagine death arriving while you are in prayer, or while you are helping someone, or while you are showing kindness. Would that not be an honorable way to depart? Now imagine it coming while you are drowning in sin, neglecting Allah, or harming others. Would you not wish you had changed earlier? That is why remembering death is not morbid. It is motivating. It keeps us alert. Brothers and sisters, every breath you take is one less breath left in your life. Every tick of the clock is not just time passing. It is your time being reduced. Every day that ends is one day closer to your ending. If you truly internalize that, you will not allow procrastination to rule your faith. You will not say, tomorrow I will change. You will say, today is my only guarantee, let me make it count. And here is something beautiful. When you remember death regularly, you actually live better. You become more compassionate because you know your relationships are temporary. You become more grateful because you know blessings will not last forever. You become more forgiving because you realize grudges are wasted energy. You become more focused because you know distractions are stealing precious moments. In short, remembering death makes you live fully in both Dunya and Akhirah. There is an old saying, the shroud has no pockets, meaning the cloth you are wrapped in when buried has no space for money, no space for possessions. You take nothing with you. But while the shroud has no pockets, your record of deeds has endless capacity. It carries everything, every word, every glance, every action, every intention, and that record will be opened on the day when nothing else matters. So ask yourself, what am I filling that record with? If I were to die tonight, would I be ready to present it to Allah? So, my beloved brothers and sisters, let us not be people who live heedlessly, pretending that death is far away. Let us be people who live consciously, always aware that our meeting with Allah could be sooner than we expect. Let us prepare not with fear that paralyzes us, but with hope that motivates us, because death is not the end for the believer. It is the beginning of the real life, the eternal life, and the way we live here is the way we will rise there. Every time you hear of a passing, remind yourself, that could have been me. Every time you stand in a funeral prayer, remind yourself, one day people will be standing over me. Every time you visit a grave, remind yourself, this ground will one day embrace me too. And let that thought not sadden you but drive you. Drive you to pray sincerely. Drive you to repent sincerely. Drive you to love sincerely. Drive you to live sincerely, because once the moment comes, there are no second chances. The doors of action close, and only the results remain. May Allah make us people who remember death often, not to despair, but to stay focused. May He grant us the wisdom to use our time well, to fill our lives with good deeds, and to meet Him with hearts ready for His mercy. And may He allow our final breath to be in a state that pleases Him, and our eternal home to be one of peace and light. Ameen.